We're having this conversation, aren't we? Are we? Definitely doing it. We have a very much. Is it sensitive? Okay. Okay. Just speaking to my sound guy there on some of these aspects of the conversation that I'm about to have today. It's just a pass by conversation. It's not an official episode. That's why you're hearing the voice a little bit more than anything. I think we're going to go a little bit audio wise for a bit before we go back to being visual. So, education for sustainable development. We're going to talk about the disparities today of this very conversation in itself, this very topic in itself. It's not just a topic, it's something that we need to really forge as a skill in terms of our current generation and teaching the next. That's the only way that we can achieve sustainable society. In this here case, actually. And look, we can't be saying that we are blind to the disparities that are going on within our country in itself. And even the actual department itself has said that there are disparities and has acknowledged that. And today this conversation isn't merely just about that. It's about what in the world are these insufficiencies of involvement of stakeholders, and partners in education for sustainability development? There is a need already to have more of these collaborations, because if we're going to have to co-create something, we have to do something which we are actually saying co-create. We ought to co-create together. We have to work together as stakeholders, and everybody involved, from the students themselves. They have to understand, they have to know as to how to equip these teachers, empower these students. How do we really do that? We have come up with a solution at the Teacher and Edu Foundation, which is a sustainability debate club. Creating one in all the schools that we can reach was going to be very vital, and creating a competition that they can also participate in to be involved in all that is to happen, and making them and evoking enthusiasm in them to really run along. We need partners in this form, I would say. If you're one, just raise your hand. We'll take heed of you, recognize you, and say, welcome to the redefining community. Join our village. We ought to have this conversation today because South Africa in itself, as far as it stands, we face many challenges in the basic education sector in itself, where there's a lot of hindrance. We've developed it into products. We like, hey, you can create that. Eskom Science Expo is doing great in terms of allowing these kids to boost their innovations and all of that. But really, then we come to the point of saying that these aspects are being developed into products, laced into products and services to say this is what sustainability is. But who really understands this? Are we really going to expect a child to understand how a certain aspect of, there's a green car that moves on hydrogen fuel, and this is what you need to know about hydrogen. What about hydrogen? Do you know anything about hydrogen? Not so much. Do you know how good it's going to be in the community? Not so much. Are we really having this very conversation? No, it's not trendy, right? And that is what needs to be. We are an organization, we create a product, we create a service, we put it out in the world will understand later, they'll just work around it. How? Because we are yet to reach 2030 and we have 17 SDGs. How are we really saying that we're reaching them? This is a very much of a great strategy to say, having to allow these kids to sit down, engage with them, make them understand, make it flood the very same internet that they use. They are interconnected already. Why not use the very same internet to advantage? Create these products, then speak about them, then talk about them, then break them down, then have somebody to really break this down. This is the country in which you're living in. The implementation and achievement of, education, sustainability development in itself has challenges. There's a lot of persistence in educational inequalities that stem from the legacy of, we know that we're going to really talk about this. We're going to put it in the conversation, apartheid, right? That's going to be one of the actual things that lead to all these inequalities in terms of who gets this. There's a larger disparity between the high socioeconomics, which understand they have all the resources that push them towards having the knowledge and accessing everything that is for them to understand the topic of sustainability, and therefore leading up into companies and leading up to circles and networks that help them achieve the actual comprehension of knowledge of sustainability. That is a great disparity that causes this inequality due to some of those legacies, as we said, of apartheid. And this is obviously with the socioeconomic states within this very country. We are living in a very unequal country, and we 100% know that, right? And we are already in a sense of saying that many of these pupils themselves, as we stated, that many of these learners are from poor and marginalized backgrounds and do not have access to quality education, obviously, as we already stated. This can lead up to a little bit more into saying health can also come in and into play into all of this. We would say that if you teach a child right now to be like, look, you need to be able to know and not think about poverty. But how can you not think about poverty when you don't have access to the right facilities that can at least grant you the way off of saying, oh, don't worry about this? You know, the moment that I realized I am from that, I would say I'm from a middle class family myself, where I realized that my mother growing up, I was poor growing up and I didn't even see it, because I was put in a position to really say, we're going to give you everything that you need, in particular, that we feel you need, and we're going to put you in a stance of, should I call it the emotional brainwashing, that put me in a state of saying, you have food, you have clothes, you can watch cartoons, you can play video games, that's all that you need. You have your books to read, and now to have a book every now and again, have rush to do, let's do this. I wouldn't really feel the lack thereof, because I wouldn't actually be thinking of anything else but to read that book, to come up with a new innovative project for my December, because I used to do that a lot growing up. I didn't think much of, oh, I need to, I don't have this, I have to, that thought being removed. Till I get sick, I can go in and there's a clinic, that'll help me. And my parents be like, even if they gave me some bananas, like, in like 1, 2, 3 and whatever, they would say something that would make it feel very exclusive for me, so that I don't end up thinking about my poverty. And that in itself raised many ways of who I am today and how I also speak. I wouldn't lie and say my parents had like best English or anything. My mother didn't even know English at all. My dad is pushy, so you kind of get the picture of everything. It's a whole thing of, or pushing is technically, but it's a whole aspect of deprive what makes them think of the lack and raise a good equality in that format. You know, it might be a wrong idea that I might have, some people might say, but this is what I believe. A lack of something that proves lack is actually a good thing, because then you have much to really be grateful for, a little bit easier in terms of some of those aspects as you really go along. So there are many ways in which this affects a child going into, if you don't know much about sustainability, then I'm going to use firewood a lot. I'm going to start wanting that petrol car because and I'm going to want to not use certain aspects of things that are well called sustainable. Green food. Oh no, 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 no. I want real stuff because we're from a culture base. Integrating culture and these sustainability ideas needs to be a thing that we also need to make possible, because then it would lead to us understanding our culture and our world in that sustainability route as we move along to it, because then it would be able to groom many of these youngsters into understanding where we are in terms of that. So above everything else, we go into these schools. Now let's go into how the inequality and the less of quality in the schools really goes along. The lack of teachers' preparations and professional development for these teachers in the education for sustainability development is very, very lacking, as we already stated. Many of these teachers do not have a necessary knowledge, skills, and competencies to integrate education for sustainability development into the curriculum and pedagogy. This is all that they basically need to be empowered, because on top of everything, we can do all these workshops, all these last push programs, and I've seen a lot up in the education industry in itself for like 6 years now, in particular education management, that is to say. And we've seen all of these. They get paid less. That's not so much motivating to actually have teachers in there. You have them in these facilities, as we said, that are very much of poor conditions and limited support in school. They need to be empowered. More proof that they really need to be empowered, because then they can be able to be like, oh, this is what we need. This is how we need to really put up 1, 2, 3. You would be having workshops that empower both the learner and the teacher in a sense that helps them activate the best of preparations for the sustainable future society in which we actually aim for. In this case, these sustainability clubs in which we're actually creating are that very necessity that we actually are going to be engaging on, and they're looking for some UGs to really engage with quite soon, and sit down as well with some of the education the departments as well, and have this conversation. I believe this is one conversation that really needs to be had, apart from me just making it a pass-by conversation, to sit down. Next year, I believe sometime in February, we should be starting with our first tour, that is, which is going to be around Mamelodi High School, and us sitting down with the learners. They're creating our first club, Sustainability Debate Club, and sitting down with them, then sitting down with either 2 or 3 ESG professionals to really start having these conversations, preparing them, making them understand, and rolling along the whole year to really see other schools as well, and finally having that scholar sustainability debate competition going on. This is going to be much of a necessity. This is why the empowerment is really needed in this sense, because now we're going to be involving stakeholders. We are going to be involving yourself as an organization. We're going to be involving your professionals. We're going to be involving everybody who has a hand in creating these products and services, which are already laced with sustainability ideas. And now saying, oh, this is why hydrogen is good for the environment. And this is why that you need to follow an engineering career. This is also why you need to follow a marketing career. Which, some of those things need to now be really spoken about to empower them. And the teachers be like, oh, this is why a child would need to learn about sustainability. This is how it will go. Then they'll be able to preach about it, talk about it as they should within schools, implementing and integrating it as it should be, right? Because these disparities will not just decide to go our way and with us really not saying anything. There is a need for more collaborations and coordination among different actors, obviously, and sectors such as the government, civil society, private sector, media, which is in this case ourselves, parents and communities, to promote and support education sustainability development in the basic education sector. There is also a need for more dialogue and consultation with learners who are in the main beneficiary and agents of the education for sustainability development. This is exactly what we're coming for. This is exactly what we're coming to do. And I so wish that this is my solo talk to you guys, to say to everybody, listen, we have to bring about change. We have to kill these disparities as we go along. And the best way to do that is to really start co-creating. That's the key word here. Redefine the narrative of a sustainable society by really co-creating, working together with the basic education sector in itself, the teachers, the learners themselves. And let's create these clubs. Let's go for it. Let's really be part of it. I'm highly anticipating us to really have a larger impact within the Pretoria and the Joburg North districts as of next year, and the Muzikotane local municipality as well. Having that would be a beautiful way forward, a way to really start that co-creation journey. And I'm most definitely looking forward to it. Still looking forward to those conversations that we're going to have about sustainability and what we are actually looking to achieve as well as organizations and as an organization as well from TG and Edu Foundation themselves. This was Varsity on Record, the sustainable, redefined future. Light is particularly a wave that it resonate for generations. I'm GB Langer, and I'll see you guys soon for the official episodes, hopefully. As we should. Come through, engage. Let's talk about this.